I'm Jason Bernagozzi.
I'm Debora Bernagozzi.
And we are co-founders of Signaculture. We're also video artists, and we're about to go on tour across part of the Midwest. And we wanted to start that tour by developing a new performance at Feed Media Arts Center.
So we're here in Erie, Pennsylvania, January 2024, finishing up preparations for our little mini tour we're about to do.
And as a part of our residency at Feed, we wanted to develop a brand new audiovisual performance. And one of the key elements of that audiovisual performance is a brand new application that is yet to be released as a part of the Signaculture Modular Apps Suite.
And so that's a series of apps that Jason has developed. Some of the apps were developed alongside Eric Souther, who did UI interfaces. And they're a way for us to make sure that people have a way of doing real-time video synthesis through MIDI interfaces through their PCs or Macs, and to be able to do that for a very low-cost donation to Signaculture.
So Pixel Masher is pretty exciting. It's a new app that allows you to do something that looks similar to pixel sorting, but also expands it quite a bit. And so what you see here on the screen is some elements that are going to be in our new performance. And what's happening here is that we have pixels that are occurring along a keyed edge. And rather than kind of animating everything inside there, we're animating one pixel along that edge and pushing it through a vector path in relationship to those keyed areas. So right now, Debora is keying it on the white clip. If she's going to change that, she can change it to the black clip. And as you can see, it then takes a new set of pixels being sampled and pushes it around. And these pixels can be on a softened key or a hard key, and they have both a vertical and horizontal orientation. So right now, they are just vertical being pushed, and they can be multi-directional, so they can start being pushed up, and then now we're pushing them to the right, and now we can have them both directions at once and start to get some really interesting kinds of patterns through that. And so a part of the concept for our new piece, as you're seeing, there are these trays, but they look gnarled, and we shot all this footage in the burn scar around the Cameron Peak fire in Colorado, which was one of the worst fires that was there. And the pixel sorting technology gives it this kind of sense of the ghosts of the burn in a way, right? And it's a way to kind of meditate on those forms in the landscape, the starkness of the trees in relationship to the sky, and this idea of the kind of things that echo and sustain through that process.
So right now what we have is an interface that's temporary. So some of the features may change before the actual app is released, but I'm going to switch over here to mirroring my desktop so you can see. And so what you see, if you can see my mouse moving, is up top the input amplifier, which is the sort of brains of the modular apps. So you can put in a single video, a video folder, or a live device such as a camera. And you can use Siphon or Spout, depending if you have Mac or PC, to send that out to the other apps. And right now you can see this channel 1 is coming in from the input amplifier to this initial version of, we think we'll be calling it Pixel Masher, something like that. And so Jason will talk about the interface.
Yeah, so this is a really basic UI. We tend to clean this up quite a bit, as you can see up top, but the basic functions are really here. We have white clip, black clip. That switches how the key tolerance either starts from whites, go towards the middle gray and then beyond, or it starts in blacks goes towards middle gray and beyond. As I was kind of mentioning, I'm going to zero everything. I'm going to bring the key right back up to normal, where we don't have any keying and we don't have any effect whatsoever. So if I want to demonstrate this kind of key tolerance, I'm going to push the vertical up a little bit to the right, which is going to push the pixels upwards. And rather than kind of slightly putting the key up, I'm just going to go ahead and yank it. As we can see, we're pushing everything up, right? Or if I push it down, we'll push everything straight down. If I hit horizontal, it'll start going in those directions.
And if you have vertical and horizontal going at the same time, then of course you start going diagonal.
Yeah. And you can put it on a white clip as well. So as you notice, as I bring the clip up, it's starting to white areas until it gets to middle gray and beyond. If we key soften, right, it makes sure that that edge is a little bit softer, a little bit more eventual. And then as we bring it up, we can start putting it in different directions. And it's kind of going in a direction right now, but we also have a unidirectional to bidirectional thing. So if I start bringing this over, it starts slowing it down, and then it pushes it almost two directions at the same time. So as you can see, if I do this and I hit as such, right, we have some pixels going up and some pixels going down. And similarly, going like that. And if we have them going opposite directions, you can see how it starts to get some really dynamic bidirectional movement. In addition to all that, you can do things like texture shift, where we can push the texture over to the right, and we can actually have another key go in here and bring in some down-sampled pixel squishing, so dimensional squishing. We can put those in the whites or in the blacks. And then if I can go to squish main, right? And as I bring that kind of tolerance up and start to play with it as such, we start to get some really very different patterns where the pixel sorting is actually happening within the alpha channel versus everything else as we texture shift it over. So the point of this is to actually, be able to do all this in real time, and you can set this up by MIDI learn and key learn, and assigning keys to different buttons or MIDI control data to any of the controls, and you can perform all this in real time without having to click around on the interface.
Yeah, and so that's really fun. We actually have a few different MIDI controllers we have that are very inexpensive, but allow you to have that tactile sense of moving a slider or turning a knob and seeing things happen in real time.
Yeah.
And that's actually really important to both our personal practice and to what we do at Signal Culture, is that experience of real-time improvisational working with video. So it's like using video as an instrument, more like a jazz musician would than someone reading sheet music. So while I'm a good editor, I enjoy editing, sitting still and clicking a mouse is not the same as being experimental and playful and having that tactile interface.
Yeah. And so the great thing about these apps, though, is that they don't just exist by themselves. I mean, yes, you may really like this particular look, but all the apps are modular in nature, kind of like how you would have in our system at Signal Culture. So you can actually send them out into our system and bring them into some other apps.
So he's opening Scan, which is one of the apps that's in our original suite of modular apps. Why don't you describe what Scan does?
Well, Scan is a slit scan app that uses a buffered slit scan. So this kind of directionality will scan from what's represented as white to what is represented as black over a period of time. So if I were to give it 500 frames to make it nice and slow, I'm going to refresh here, choose Pixel Mash, which I now see in the chooser.
So when we were talking earlier about having siphon and spout integration, that was what that is. So it allows you to integrate the apps with one another, but also with other apps from other developers that use siphon or spout.
And now we can actually do things in the app that will respond over a period of a slit scan time. And now this is right to left. I can shift it the other way, so I start scanning the other way. But, I'm going to do something really just odd. I'm going to go ahead and open up my live device here, which is my webcam. And I'm going to send that out. I'm going to refresh all this. And now, as you can see, I'm using my live camera, that's my fingers right there.
And my tiny head.
And Debora's tiny head as the scan gradient for the incoming video from Pixel Masher. So you can see that there's suddenly, as you start to do modular things, whether or not a live webcam on a MacBook Pro is interesting, you can see that there's a lot of different possibilities when you start thinking about things in series like that. I've always been very surprised by residents who come to Signal Culture who find interesting new combinations of apps to put together along with our analog system. The idea being that the more kinds of ways we can connect image processing, the more interesting and unique that one person's processual logic tends to emerge. So, yeah.
And so with these apps, we actually use them a lot in our performances so that we have tools that we can use as well. Yeah, there's a whole suite of apps, including frame buffer and things that will let you wrap images around shapes and all sorts of stuff, and they all play together really nicely.
Yeah, and it was really important for us, the other thing is about residencies, you can have your studio, you can have even a lot of the equipment you think you may use to produce a thing, but there's also this idea of the context of timing and place. And so having this opportunity to come to Feed Media Arts Center, to be in this enormous space where it has a very unique feel. It's a really old, huge building. There's all different kinds of sounds and textures and all that. And go into a residency to immerse yourself in a completely different mental state can yield really interesting results. Even if those things don't feel familiar and perhaps uncomfortable, being uncomfortable is actually where you grow, right? Because you find a way to work even though everything's maybe not in a state where you're used to things happening. And so all the residencies we've been on have always been these really interesting kind of dynamic spaces, whether it's the Kuala Lumpur Experimental Film Festival, where we were, that was just a crazy nonstop event-filled thing.
In Malaysia.
In Malaysia, to having a really specific kind of learning experience at Squeaky Wheel, or being here at Feed, which is really kind of just this really wonderful open and really you can feel like there's a lot about to happen here.
A lot of energy.
There's a lot of energy here, and you feed off of that, right? But it's true that the spirit of a place can help push your work in different ways.
Yeah, and even a little bit unintentionally. So we were experimenting with different sorts of video sources, and so it's very much winter here right now. And so some of the sources that we had thought about using were very much the palette of the kind of snowy landscape. And Being from Georgia, that was a little more than I could do. So I ended up specifically choosing footage that's more brightly colored and lots of variety of tonality. And so, yeah, it's interesting the choices that you make depending on the environment you're in when you're creating.
So we're about to go on a little mini tour. I have a new installation that is debuting at Kent State University as a part of the Still Moving exhibition, which has artists Kristen Reeves, Jamie Hahn, Eric Souther, and Evelyn LeBlanc-Roberge. I also have some prints there, but we're also going to be performing our new piece as a part of the opening event. So
the one that we just gave a little preview of.
Yeah.
And from there, we're going to go out to Western Michigan University. Jason will do some workshops, and we'll be doing a performance there. And
then finally, we'll be going to Chicago for a performance at Triangle with a lot of really great people. And that gallery is going to be pretty special, I think. So definitely this performance, while it started here at Feed, is going to get a lot of play there. And there's going to be other dates available. We're looking at dates in the Southwest right now. So, hopefully we'll come to your town as well.
Yeah. So we've been performing together since, 2011, 2012, something like that. And a lot of the time, I'll do the video processing and Jason will do live sound or sound processing. Sometimes I use video that he recorded, like at the Arbor Film Festival, there was this really beautiful stop motion, well, not stop motion.
Time lapse.
Yeah, sorry, time lapse footage he shot of mushroom mycelium growing in petri dishes that he had cultivated. In addition to live cameras, scanning books and close-ups of our skin and that sort of thing. A lot of times it'll be footage that I shot, so the footage that you saw in the little preview was from a cell phone camera footage that I shot because I don't have a lot of money for cameras, and that was, the best camera is the one that you have. And I know how to use it. So cell phone footage that I shot at the Cameron Peak Burn Scar.
Yeah, well, a lot of the stuff we use now is mostly software that I've made, not only for cineculture, but sometimes specialty software for a particular performance. And I tend to do sound work mainly because that's my background initially. I do obviously make a lot of video art, and I can perform live video, but sound is something I'm really, really, really comfortable in, and so I enjoy giving myself new learning experiences as a way to kind of get through some of that sound. So right now for this performance, we'll be doing a lot of stuff with Eurorack modules. I have a brand new Eurorack setup that I'm trying to work through. But a lot of times I'll also do a lot of live granular processing, a lot of software-based sound. So it's always a bit of a mix depending on what the particular piece calls for.
And I'm just going to go back over to the footage. Now, in our performance, we won't have my head in it. That emerged from Jason showing the other app, but I can switch between clips in the input amp, and so give you a little sense of some of the other kinds of footage that I have for that performance. And do you want to talk about what you're doing with audio?
Yeah, for audio, so a lot of the visual, it's kind of great looking either way. Sorry, I got distracted by the visuals. One of the things that I'm thinking about a lot with her footage of this idea of kind of the echoes of a thing, or how one event can have a lot of different permutations. We're really kind of just basing this off of a very simple oscillation, splitting it out to multiple types of filters and low pass gates to give it some rhythm, and then further degrading that signal and doing live data bending of that signal and looping of it to show the kind of idea of like how one simple event can have multiple different kinds of aural effects in this kind of terms of sound. And we're also going to see that in the visuals as well. So a lot of that live performative thing will be based on introducing this simple oscillator, complexifying it, breaking it apart, repeating, remixing, all these kind of sounds, and creating a really nuanced, textured movement with it.
Alrighty, so
Thank you very much.
Yep.
thank you.